Despite having their convention last week, it appears that Democrats are not receiving a polling bump. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because it appears Democrats failed to get a polling bump. Yeah, that's right. Despite having their convention last week, Democrats, as of now, are not seeing any kind of polling surge that they were banking on. Like, historically speaking, after the convention, especially a week after, within the first week, you see some kind of polling surge. It may not be 10 points, but most of the time, you see something. For example, back in 2008, before the DNC, it was roughly Obama plus 1.5. Right after it, it was Obama plus 6. After the RNC, it was McCain plus 3. Now, that's 2008. That was, 16 years ago. Completely different election. I get that. But look at 2012. Same thing occurred. Right after the RNC, it went from Obama plus 1 to roughly tied. But after the DNC, it went from roughly tied to Obama plus 4. Or 3.5, I should say. Even back in 2016, after the RNC, it went from Clinton plus 3 to Trump plus 1. And after the DNC, it reversed to Clinton plus 7. So the conventions, most of the time, they usually give you some kind of bump. Even if it's a smaller one like in 2012 for Romney, like a 2 to 3 point shift. We're not seeing that. In fact, according to this poll from The Economist, they actually have Harris losing ground. Yeah, that's right. Before the convention, they had it Harris plus 3. After the convention, they had it Harris plus 2. And this is coming from The Economist. This pollster back in 2020 was claiming Trump was down by 10 points. He was going to lose by 8 points. It was going to be a historical landslide. He was losing everywhere. But now, they can find Harris only up by 2 points. Yeah. And you look at some of the crosstabs, you realize this is a big problem for Harris. Look at independents. It's Trump plus 5. What is that, a 15-point swing from 2020? Look at moderates. That's like a 10-point shift from 2020. It keeps going. You can make an argument that the only reason Harris even has a lead in this poll is because they had some ridiculous, like, D plus 8 sample or something crazy like that. It's like, wait, what? You can find Harris only up by 2 with a D plus 8 sample? Oh boy, that's not good for Harris whatsoever. That's the problem here. If it wasn't for this massive Democrat overrepresentation, it would probably be a Trump lead. If you would have told me just a week ago that, oh yeah, by the way, Harris does not receive any kind of polling bump. In fact, she actually goes down in a couple polls, I would have said, you're crazy. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that I believe that a 15-point shift was happening. But I thought after the convention, Harris would have gotten some kind of bump, like 2 to 3 points, maybe 4. But right now, it's at best a 1 to 2 point shift. Yeah, 1 to 2 points is your best case scenario from some polls. While The Economist, they can only get her up by 2 points, which would be a victory in the Electoral College. Now, some people are going to say, well, the only reason Harris did not get a bump was because of RFK dropping out. I'm not denying that as a legitimate possibility. Hell, I actually believe that part of the reason Harris did not get some kind of 15-point bump was because of RFK dropping out. Which is exactly the problem. Harris's campaign is not getting momentum. They're not getting the polling bump they needed. They were banking on some kind of 10-point bump in the polling. They were. They needed it. They needed this momentum to continue up to the election for them to win. That's a reality of it. But as of now, it doesn't seem like that momentum is continuing. Now, you might argue, well, it's The Economist. It's one pollster. Maybe it's a fluke. Well, they're not the only one to find something similar. Look at Yahoo. They found a 1-point swing towards Harris, which is nothing. This convention bump should have been 2, 3, 4 points at the bare minimum. Like, that's how Democrats were acting. They were banking on the idea of a 10-point shift, not a 1-point shift. And even then, Harris plus 1 is still a Trump victory in the Electoral College. And people are celebrating a Harris plus 1 despite that? It's just crazy to think that some people are celebrating a 1-point shift. Like, what? A 1-point shift is all you can muster? And just like the Economist poll, they found Trump up with independents, doing better with moderates. And if it wasn't for an overrepresentation of Democrats, just like the Economist poll, Trump would probably be leading in this poll. But if you thought this was bad enough for Harris, like, okay, a 1-point shift towards her, not what she needed, it's a very small lead, it's not good for Harris whatsoever. If you thought that was bad enough, look at the dates of this poll. It was conducted from the 22nd to the 26th, okay? Their last poll was in the middle of July, right before Harris had her original polling surge. Yeah. So this 1-point shift towards Harris, you can make the argument it didn't happen because of the convention. You could argue that Harris was just doing slightly better than Biden, especially earlier this month, but they didn't pull it. So you have no clue if this was because of the convention. You don't know if this is because of a response bias. None of that. You see the problem here? This is a huge problem for Harris because you don't know if this polling quote-unquote surge, which by the way, a 1-point shift, that's nothing. That's statistical noise. But let's say it's real. You don't know if that's because of the convention or if that's because of a response bias from earlier this month. You don't know. You see the problem here? It's only a 1-point shift from the middle of July. And there's another pollster that found the same thing, FAU, which I consider to be a very shit pollster. Well, guess what? They could only get Harris up by 4 with a 2-point shift. And yet again, just like the Yahoo poll, their last poll was conducted a month ago. It wasn't right before the convention. So you don't really know if the convention changed anything from the FAU poll or the Yahoo poll. But The Economist was the only one, the poll right before the convention and right after. And they found no change. Hell, they actually found Trump doing better. You see the problem here? Again, I'm not saying Harris should have gotten a 15-point bump. That was always crazy to begin with. People actually believe that. That's nuts. But she should have gotten something. Now, to be fair, there could be other polls out there that show Harris doing 10 points better than before the convention. I get that. But right now, I'm not seeing much change at all. In fact, some polls actually show Trump doing better. As for The Economist and FAU, like I said, you don't know if this bump in quotation was because of the convention or not. You don't know. But like I said, we have to be careful because there could be other polls out there that haven't been released yet that found Harris doing 10 points better than before the convention. That's entirely possible. I get that. But right now, none of these polls are showing a 15-point swing towards Harris, which, by the way, was what the Harris campaign needed. They were banking on this 15-point surge to win the election. They need it. Because do you really believe this momentum that they have right now, which it appears to be dying, by the way, do you really believe their momentum that they had in late July, in early August, can really continue for 2 months? I highly doubt it. And that's why Democrats, they wanted a 10-point shift. Because even most of them realized that this momentum Harris has, it's not going to last. But they were thinking to themselves, okay, the momentum that we had originally, it's starting to fade a little bit, but maybe, just maybe, we have a convention surge, just like Obama had back in 2008, just like Clinton had back in 2016. But no, they got nothing. They have nothing to show for this convention surge that they were banking on. Nothing. Does this really look like a 10-point surge? It looks like statistical noise at best. And there's a bunch of reasons for why Harris is not seeing a surge that you could argue. Obviously, RFK dropping out and backing Trump. I think that's the second biggest reason we're not seeing any kind of polling surge. The biggest reason, which I think has been vindicated as of now, is the fact that Harris already had her bump. She had it in late July and early August, when she originally announced her candidacy, and everyone went nuts. That's what happened. She got her convention bump then. But after the actual convention, she gets nothing. There's no change here. What is this? This is statistical noise. Hell, you have The Economist showing Trump doing a point better. So, and even then, a Harris +1 is not what she needs. She needs Harris +2s, 3s, 4s, just to barely win, and that's without accounting for a polling miss. Realistically, she wants to be up by 7 to 8 points. Not by 1, not by 2, not by 3. She needs to be up by way more than she currently is. And that's what some people are just refusing to accept. They really believe a 1-point lead for Harris is great news. No, it's not. If she's up by only 1 point, and again, that's assuming there's no polling miss. We are assuming the polling is spot on. If she's only up by 1 to 2 points, she's not going to win the Electoral College. Why don't people understand this? This is a basic concept. Biden barely won when he won the popular vote by like 4 points. But now, Harris is barely up by a point in most polls. That's it. That's a 3-point shift from 2020. That's a defeat. That's an Electoral College defeat. The fact some people just refuse to accept that is crazy, but that's how some people are. But we got to see what happens. Again, there's a possibility that there are other polls out there that show Harris doing way better. I get that. But right now, based on the current polling that we have, and just based off of history, this is a pathetic convention bump. And you know what? You could call it a convention slump. Because it's so bad, there's no shift at all. You could call it a slump. Because this should be the best polling for Harris. And that's what everyone was saying. But it isn't. It's not. It's at best a 1 to 2 point shift. When in reality, it should be 3, 4, 5, 6 points better than before the convention. Not 1. Not just 2. That's nothing. That's statistical noise. You don't even know if it's real. And even a pollster like FAU, which has Trump doing 2 points worse or whatever, you don't know if that's because of the convention. You just don't know if that's because of the convention, if that's because of her surge earlier this month. You have no clue. That's the problem here. You don't know if this is a real bump or not, because it's so insignificant that as of now, it's looking like a polling slump. We'll get a better grasp of things in probably a week or so. But if this is her polling surge after the convention, she's probably in a very bad situation, because as a Democrat especially, you don't want to be up by just a point in the national polls. You want to be up by 4 to 5 at the bare minimum. Like, that's the worst case scenario. Not your best case scenario being up by 3 to 4 in most polls. That's nothing. For a Democrat, especially after a convention, it should be 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10 points. It's still just a stunning turn of events that this polling surge is nothing. I really thought it was going to be like 2 to 3 points in every poll. Not just one pollster like FAU, which, by the way, hasn't polled anything for a month, showing a 2-point shift, and that's it. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.